Have you ever walked into a room and felt the energy shift? When someone started speaking, it's like they have this invisible magnet, pulling everyone's attention, making every word they say feel important. You find yourself leaning in, hanging on to each sentence, even if they're talking about something as mundane as what they had for breakfast. How do they do it? How do they speak in a way that makes people want to listen, no matter what they're talking about? Let's dive deep into the art of speaking, so you too can become that person. You know, the one who commands attention effortlessly. It starts with something simple, yet incredibly powerful. Short sentences. Think about it. When you're listening to someone, do you want to hear them ramble on and on? Or do you prefer when they get to the point? Short sentences are like little verbal bullets, quick, sharp, and impactful. They keep your listener's mind from wandering, keeping them focused on what you're saying. It's like a series of small hooks, each one catching your listener's attention and pulling them further into what you're saying. Let's say you're telling a story. If you start with, "So the other day I was walking down the street and I saw something that really caught my eye," your listener might start to zone out. But if you start with, "I saw something strange yesterday," you've got them. They're curious. What did you see? They want to know more, and they're ready to listen to the next thing you're going to say. That's the power of short sentences. They create momentum. They keep your listener on the edge of their seat, waiting for the next piece of the puzzle. Now let's talk about the tense you use when you speak. Most people don't think about this, but it's a game changer. We're talking about present tense. Why is this so effective? Because present tense pulls people into the moment. It makes your words feel immediate, like they're happening right now. When you say, "I'm walking down the street, and suddenly I see something strange," you're creating a sense of urgency. You're making your listener feel like they're right there with you, experiencing it in real time. It's as if they're watching a movie play out in their mind, and you're the director, guiding their focus. The present tense isn't just about what's happening now. It's about making your listener feel like what you're saying is happening to them. It's a psychological trick, really. When you speak in the present tense, you're not just telling a story. You're creating an experience. You're taking your listener on a journey, and they're far more likely to stay engaged because it feels relevant. It feels alive. And that's exactly what you want. But there's more to it than just the tense you use. It's also about how you deliver your message. This brings us to the conversational style. Now, you might think that sounding polished and professional is the way to go. But here's the truth. People connect with people, not robots. If you're too stiff, too formal, you risk creating distance between you and your listener. The key is to sound natural, like you're talking to a friend over coffee. When you're conversational, you're approachable, you're relatable, and most importantly, you're real. Think about the best conversations you've had. They're probably with people who don't try too hard, who speak naturally, with warmth and ease. That's what you want to emulate. Instead of saying, "One must always consider the consequences before making a decision," it's really important to think about what might happen before you make a choice. See the difference? The first sentence sounds like a lecture. The second sounds like advice from a friend. When you speak conversationally, you're inviting your listener in. You're saying, "Hey, let's talk," rather than "Listen to me." Now let's talk about the active voice. This one's a biggie. The active voice is all about taking charge of your sentences. It's about making sure you're the one driving the action, not letting the action happen to you. For example, instead of saying, "The report was completed by me," you say, "I completed the report." It's more direct, more powerful. It shows that you're in control. And when you're in control, your listener trusts you more. They're more likely to believe what you're saying because you sound confident, assertive, and clear. The passive voice, on the other hand, is like a whisper. It's weak, unsure, and often confusing. "The cake was eaten" leaves you wondering, by whom? But "I ate the cake" gives you all the information you need, with no ambiguity. The active voice makes your message stronger, clearer, and more engaging. It's like the difference between watching a movie in HD and watching it in fuzzy black and white. One grabs your attention, the other makes you squint and lose interest. But here's the thing. None of this matters if you complicate things. Simplicity is your best friend. When it comes to speaking, the more complex your words and ideas, the harder it is for people to follow. And if they're struggling to keep up, they'll tune out. Remember, your goal isn't to impress with fancy language or convoluted ideas. It's to communicate, to connect. Keep your language simple, your ideas straightforward, and your message clear. Simplicity cuts through the noise. It gets to the heart of what you're trying to say without any unnecessary fluff.
Think of simplicity
As the foundation of a strong house. Without it, everything else crumbles. You can have the most engaging story,
the most compelling message.
but if it's buried under layers of complexity, it'll never reach your audience. They'll give up before they even get to the good part. So strip it down, get to the essence of what you're trying to say, and say it simply. When you do, that people not only listen, they understand. And that's the ultimate goal, isn't it, finally? Let's add a little seasoning to this mix, humor. Humor is like the secret ingredient that takes your speech from good to unforgettable. It's the spice that makes your words taste better. The unexpected twist that makes people smile, even laugh. When you use humor, you're not just communicating. You're entertaining. And people love to be entertained.
But humor isn't just about getting laughs.
It's about creating a connection. When you make someone laugh, you're breaking down barriers. You're showing them that you're human, that you don't take yourself too seriously.
And that's incredibly powerful.
Humor makes you relatable.
It makes your message memorable.
Think about it. How many times have you remembered something just because it made you laugh? Humor sticks. It leaves a mark.
It makes your words linger in your listener's mind long
after you finish speaking. But here's the key with humor. It needs to be natural. Forced jokes or awkward attempts at being funny can backfire. Instead, look for moments where humor naturally fits.
Maybe it's a funny story,
A clever observation, or a light-hearted comment. The best humor is the kind that feels effortless. That fits seamlessly into what you're saying. And when you get it right, it's like magic. Suddenly your listener is not just hearing your words. They're enjoying them. They're engaged, they're smiling, and they're far more likely to remember what you've said. So let's recap. If you want to speak so that people want to listen, here's what you do. Start with short sentences to keep things clear. And punchy, use the present tense to make your words
feel immediate
and alive. Speak in a conversational style to connect with your listener and make them feel comfortable. Use the active voice to take control.
and make your message powerful.
Keep your language and ideas simple so your message shines through. And sprinkle in some humor to keep things light, engaging and memorable. But here's the thing. All of this takes practice. It's not something you master overnight. It's like learning to play an instrument. You start with the basics, and over time, you get better and better. So start practicing these techniques in your everyday conversations. Notice how people respond when you use short sentences. Pay attention to how they engage when you switch to the present tense. See how much more relaxed they are when you speak conversationally, and watch their faces light up when you throw in a little humor. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. And soon you'll find that people are not just listening to you. They're hanging on to every word. They're engaged, they're interested, and they're connected to what you're saying. And that's the ultimate goal, isn't it? To speak in a way that makes people want to listen. To communicate so effectively that your words resonate long after you've stopped speaking. So go ahead, start practicing these techniques. Start speaking in a way that makes people want to listen. Because the world needs your voice. It needs your ideas, your stories, your wisdom. And when you speak in a way that truly connects, you'll find that people are not just listening, they're eager to hear more. And that's a skill worth mastering